We've been having amazing weather this past like month or two even. November and December has been really nice and really warm for us. We are in Western Canada here, Kelowna, and our growing region is similar to like an American Zone 5. So that means we do get a real winter, but we still can grow a lot of stuff. And I'm super excited because there is actually a lot going on in my fall garden. I don't always plant a fall garden, but this year I did because I didn't have too much going on from the summer. The summer was a little bit of a loss with us moving and just starting up the new farm. So to make up for it, I put in a really big fall garden. And last week we got some really cold weather for us, some unseasonably cold weather. It got down to minus 10, 15 degrees Celsius, and that is cold enough to kill anything that I had going, even with these kind of primitive tarp covers to protect them. So I came out here last week to pick some of my greens and to cook something up for dinner, and it was all dead. It was all limp, and it didn't really seem like there was going to be any salvaging it. But then 1 week later, crazy weather, it's warmed up. We are above 0 overnight, and right now it's 8. You know, you need a coat, but it's really not too bad. And I came out here and it looks like a lot of stuff has bounced back. So I was going to give you guys a quick Canadian Christmas garden tour and show you what's going on in my fall garden even this late into the season. I'm in my garlic bed right now. We're hoping to be able to actually sell some garlic as one of our farm crops next year. So I planted 500-600 cloves of garlic in this big garden bed here. In where I live, we plant the garlic in the late fall, and then come early spring it starts to pop up, and then you harvest it kind of at the peak of summer. I don't mulch my garlic, but lots of people recommend mulching my garlic, and I found something that kind of is a little bit of a, proof as to why that's good advice, even though I don't follow it. So let me show you here. This here is one of my garlic cloves that has started to sprout, and I don't know if you can tell there, but it's actually started to sprout a significant amount. And normally you wouldn't want your garlic to be doing that yet. Garlic is a really hardy crop. It can handle a lot of bad weather, which is why we can plant it here in the fall, but you don't actually want it to start to grow. I know I see lots of people in England celebrating seeing that the garlic has sprouted, but all you really want to happen for us here is you want the garlic to send out some roots and get ready to grow in the spring. That growth that has come up, it's at a high risk of getting damaged because right now the weather's not too bad, but we're going to get into January, February, and then we can get down to like minus 20 here, and that's cold enough that it can damage that new growth and really set back the cloves. So looking at my garden, I do see a handful of things that have started to sprout, and I'm crossing my fingers it won't cause any long-term issues come next spring, next summer, but I probably could have avoided this a little bit, protected it a little bit better just by throwing some mulch on top of the garden. Just didn't happen this year, but hopefully I'll remember next year this happening and I'll get on it. Do I have a cow cat? We built up this tunnel to protect the crop that we have growing in here. Right now we have spinach and then a little bit of kale growing under here. I wasn't too worried about this. I actually came out and checked on it when we had that really cold night, and everything in here was fine. It didn't get wilted at all. It's amazing how much the little bit of shelter this is just totally changes the conditions. I think that it makes about a 10°C difference in the temperature. So, you know, when we get down to that -20, if the spinach in here is fine to -10, it's still going to be happy. It's not going to be too bothered. But I am excited. Not only with this tunnel have things survived, but things have actually still been growing with the warm weather that we've been having. We're coming into that cold weather now, so I don't anticipate it to grow too much. And our plan with what's in here, with it being spinach, is that it's not going to get picked. There's maybe like a single pick for us to get in here. You know, like we can make spinach salad for Christmas. But this is all just going to stay and wait until end of February, beginning of March, when it starts to warm up a little bit more here, and then it'll kickstart into growth, and then we'll have a lot of spinach to be eating all late winter, early spring. Bo, please get out of that tunnel. Bo, get out of there. You're allowed to judge me a little bit on these tunnels here because they are a very ridiculous redneck solution to the fact that we didn't have any greenhouse plastic, but we needed something to just cover and keep the frost off these fall plantings here. And so we had some tarps laying around and we just used them, and it's working, surprisingly, but it's really not the best solution. Don't necessarily copy me and do this. If you can get the greenhouse plastic, it works a lot better. I'm gonna open this tunnel up here to give a better idea of what exactly is going on inside. I'm pretty excited to show you guys all of this that's growing. These are a mix of mustards and different Asian choy type plants, and they all are pretty cold tolerant, but they're nothing that is special. It's just, you know, early spring fall crops, and these were all completely wilted, completely dead when I came out here and checked it last week. And I honestly had given up. I thought that I'd lost everything. I was a little bit disappointed that I hadn't cropped it all out before the weather came. I just wasn't watching the weather. But now, after a handful of days, a lot of the stuff that I thought was completely dead has bounced back. There definitely is some, you know, some cold kill, some frost kill on it. Some of the bigger outer leaves have died, but there's an amazing amount that's still here and has still survived. This is arugula. I really didn't think any of this was going to bounce back, and the majority of it has perked up a lot. Then we got a choy here. This is a mustard. This another bit of a larger choy, and these I should definitely eat because they are starting to go to seed. This was my Guyland, which has mostly been cropped out, and then another mustard on the end there. And all of them looking really surprisingly good. One of the crops I was most frustrated with myself for not getting out and harvesting was my turnips. The ground was rock hard, there was crystals all over the bulbs when I came out here, and all the greens were flat, all dead. And you can see that some of them, you know, have been damaged, like this yellowing to it compared to some of these darker colored ones. This is the leaf dying, but this is all bounced back. It's looking really good, and it looks like I'm gonna be able to keep harvesting, keep eating both the bulbs and the greens, so definitely excited to see it surviving. This here is my giant red mustard, and this is one of the things that I was the saddest. You can see that this actually has a lot more damage, like these leaves laying flat, dried out. You know, this leaf here is a perfect example of the damage that happens from the plants freezing. This is like just dried out, not necessarily good anymore. But there is an amazing amount that has still survived and is still good. When these got frozen, they were just completely flat. And now a good 50% of the plant has bounced back, and I'm still gonna have some good harvests on this. So I'm really happy to see how well this plant has done. I've had a vegetable garden for 15 years now, but if I'm honest about it, I really haven't done that much experimenting with fall gardening, which, you know, in hindsight seems a little bit silly. You know, I've done seed trials to find my favorite variety of zucchini, and I've been hunting for the perfect tomato for a decade. But, you know, being Canadian and having such a short season, it seems like the obvious thing that I should have been working on is to find ways to extend my season more. And I've been really impressed with the fall garden so far this year. Oh, what are you doing? It's getting kind of windy, so I'm gonna quickly head inside. I really was convinced with that cold weather that my fall garden was going to be gone. It was going to be dead. And even before that point, I normally would have cropped out the plants that I had in the garden just because I was so worried about the frosts and the below zero temperatures. I've been really shocked at how well the plants have done, even with those tarps. Those tarps don't let any light in, but in this cold, those plants aren't growing anymore, so it hasn't seemed to have affected them too much. It's almost as if they're just in the cheapest refrigerator I could ever get my hands on, where the plants will just keep, and I don't have to worry about them drying out and about trying to eat them as quickly as I normally would. Seeing how well stuff is done this year, I'm really excited to experiment with it further in the next fall, and also to try pushing my season into the earlier spring. I'm not the biggest fan of doing seedlings because I find it to be a lot of work to get them to germinate and to keep them alive in their tiny little trays, and then it's a lot of work again to have to transplant them out, and then I find that they're really delicate and they don't always take super well to the transplanting. I would rather just put seeds right into the ground and let them grow where they are, but because of that I have to wait for the temperatures to warm up. But I'm excited to try using the low tunnels to heat up the ground to germinate things a lot earlier. We usually get some really nice weather in the spring, and maybe with the low tunnels I can utilize that to actually be growing things in the ground a lot earlier than I normally would be. So I'm sitting here kind of laughing at myself that all these years I could have been eating all these wonderful Christmas veggies, but I'd just been too afraid to try. And it really is amazing how much you can learn with those little garden experiments. And there's so little to lose when it comes to gardening. Like the expense of the $1 packet of seeds that you throw into the ground, and the hour of time that you spend like peeking in on it. It's not a lot to lose when there is really a lot to gain. You reap what you sow. That's what they say.